and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then a very big hello. My name is Louise. Me and my boyfriend Jake moved from the UK to Canada a year and 6 months ago. If you're someone that's also making the move, then I've got so many information videos over on my channel if you want to go check it out. Now today I am just doing a bit of a story time. If you've got me over on Instagram, then you guys will know I went and had my immigration medical about 5 days ago now, and it didn't go to plan, and it was nothing like I thought it would be. And I asked if you guys would like a story time, and there was over 300 of you that said yes. So I'm bringing you the story time of my immigration medical exam. Now, a little disclaimer before I start the video: if you don't like talking about needles and bloods and x-ray, please do not watch this video because I go in depth with what happened. And secondly, if you are someone going through this process and you have any questions after this video, then head over to my Instagram to ask me, or you can leave it down in the comment box because I'm sure more than one of you have got the same question and I'll be able to answer it all at the same time down there. Now, I know this story isn't going to be the most amazing story, and I don't want to put anybody off the medical exam. I didn't get hurt or anything like that through the process. It was just a very unorganized process, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. It's not for anything other than just sharing my experience. Like I said, at the end of the day, we came out of it with the things that we needed, and I just wanted to share this story with you. I am going to try and keep this as short as possible, but we were in the clinic for 4 hours in total, so I have a lot to share with you. Now, just before I start, if you don't know what the medical is, basically, if you're immigrating from a country to Canada, they make you do a urine test, an x-ray, and also a blood sample to make sure you're not bringing in any diseases into the country. It costs approximately $300 depending on what clinic you go to, and there is only certain clinics that do the medical immigration exam. You cannot just book any exam. There is a long list on the canada.ca website, which I'll leave down below, where you would have to book it from. Ours, we booked in Ajax, which is about an hour away from Toronto. It was the one that had the earliest appointment. We paid $100 deposit, and we had to pay an extra $150 on the day for our blood test and an extra $50 for our chest x-ray. So in total it came to $300. On the email they send you, it takes approximately 2 to 3 hours. It tells you to wear short sleeves or something easy to take off for your blood test. And yeah, let's go on to my story time. So Jake and I had an appointment book at 12:20 on the 2nd of June in Ajax Clinic for our medical exam. This is the last part of our visa. It's also really important to us that everything was done correctly due to this being the last point of our visa, and we didn't want to pay for it again. So we turned up to Ajax about 20 minutes before our appointment at 12 o'clock. I ran into this clinic just to see if we could get in any earlier, and they told us that they would take our name and number and they would call us when we were needed into the room due to them being overrun in the morning. So just a little tip: if you are booking an appointment, make sure you book it nice and early, because throughout the day they were getting later and later. Some people had to wait an extra hour to 2 hours for their appointment time because they were running over so much, which was already the first red flag of the day, that they were running over that much. So it got to approximately 12:40, so 20 minutes after our appointment, and we still hadn't received a phone call. So Jake and I just locked up the car and we just walked in and asked what was going on, and like they said, they were overrun, but they could fit us in there. So we were only 20 minutes late, and now thinking back to it, we were extremely lucky because, like I said, some people were waiting 1 hour to 2 hours longer than they needed to be. So earlier the better for appointment, tip number 1. So we were greeted in at 12:40 by the receptionist, where we were took into a room. In this room, it was absolutely tiny. It only fit 4 chairs at 6 feet away from each other. It was like a really narrow hallway, and they had one desk at one end, which was for the x-rays, and they had one desk at the other end, which was for registration, pay-in, and also your blood, to get your blood done. All of that was done on that end, and the x-ray was done on the other end. So once we sat down, 10 minutes later, they called us to the reception desk and asked us to pay the $150 for the blood and also to get our photo done. They told us to walk all the way down the corridor until the corridor stopped and then turn left, where we'll be greeted by our first session, which is the urine sample. Now when we reached this room was absolutely tiny, like smaller than any bedroom in my house. It was probably the same size as my bathroom, and there was a long table in there with 2 laptops, a printer, and then 2 workers behind, and they gave us these urine sample pots. And asked us to pee in it until the black line, and then to put the pots on the trolley outside the bathroom, and then sit down to wait for the next instruction. So far everything's going pretty straightforward. Yes, we were 20 minutes after our appointment, but apart from that, everything seemed to be going smoothly, well organized. We thought we'd be in and out within the 2 hours, which was the minimum time they gave us, and 3 hours was the maximum time they would give us. So we were really happy that everything was going all okay, and we were only 30 minutes into our appointment. I went first to have my urine, to take my urine test, because I've never took a urine sample. I've never peed in a pot, so I was really nervous for some weird reason. And when I went in the bathroom, oh my goodness. Now, I'm a very clean and tidy person, but it takes a lot to make me feel like I'm used to camping growing up. I'm used to being outdoorsy. Like, I'm one of those people that I just grin and bear it and get on with it. But I'm gonna say now, I was literally disgusted in this toilet, and that says a lot for me. There was little round, like, urine drops everywhere on the floor, and I'm guessing it's urine and not water, because the sink was the other side of the room, and it was all around the toilet. It was absolutely disgusting. The room just stank. Like, I wish I took a picture of it. Like, throughout the day I started taking photos of little things that were happening, but at this point in the day I thought everything's going so smooth, everything's going so fine, I don't need to document anything. This is just one little hiccup throughout the day, and it was actually disgusting. So I did my urine sample, I went over to wash my hands, and there was no paper towels. And that was just something else about this bathroom. Like, you would have thought, because it's a clinic, one, and second, it's the bathroom that everyone does the urine samples in. It's the only bathroom on the bottom floor, so you would think it would get cleaned hourly, if not more. But honestly, it was disgusting. I had open-toed sandals on because it was so hot that day, and I had to wash my toes because the amount of pee it went into was disgusting. And Jake said exactly the same as well, so it wasn't just me being fussy. It was the most disgustingest. I felt like I could have catched diseases in there rather than them trying to find out if I had diseases. That's probably where I caught it. It was disgusting. So yeah, we done our urine samples, we put it in the trolley outside the room, and then we got called back into this small room that we got the pots from, to make sure our information was correct. So both me and Jake were sat in this room, so there was 2 people on the table, and then we were sat the other side of the table, and they were just reading out our name, our date of birth, our phone numbers, just to check that everything was okay on our documents, so that it would be a faster process going through the doctor's rooms. And in this room, it was so small, and while we were taking down our documents, a doctor came in to say that they wrote the wrong information for one of the clients, and then they needed to change it immediately. And so me and Jake were just sat there while they changed it. The doctor then left the room, they continued with ours, and then 2 minutes later he was back in to say they'd done it wrong again. So I was just looking at Jake thinking, this is so important. Like, if they write our name wrong, we won't get our visa for Canada. Like, this is a big deal. And the fact they've done it wrong twice for the same person in the last 2 minutes, like, is not giving me much hope in life. When the doctor went out the second time, we just made sure that they had everything written down properly. We spelled it out correctly. And yeah, it was just like so nerve-wracking. While this was going on, they were accepting more people into this urine room to get their little pots, while me and Jake were still sat in that room. And I couldn't believe it. I kept looking at Jake thinking, how many more people are they going to let in this room? It was so small, our personal information was getting talked about, and they were just like, the lady that was opposite me kept saying, yeah, come in, get your pot. And they were literally stood so close to me. And Jake just looked at me and said loudly, Louise, do you want to go wait outside? I'll give the information, because they're not social distancing. And it wasn't the fault of the clients, because they would be getting told what to do. And then the lady behind the desk was like, oh yeah, sorry, but continued to let people in. So not only was the bathroom disgusting, not only was they unorganized and writing everyone's names wrong, they were also letting like so many people into this room. I'm actually gonna upload a picture now. So me and Jake was sat on a chair by the wall. As you can see, that's where the table is, and there was 2 people behind there, and they were letting people in that middle section to come and get their urine pots, instead of just waiting for us to finish our part and then letting them in one by one. So we got all that done. It was about half an hour later, and they told us to go sit in the hallway and wait for further instructions, and the urine section was done. Okay, so we were like, okay, that was done nice and quickly. Even though it had a few hiccups, it was done nice and quickly. Let's go to the waiting room. Now, the waiting room was this long corridor. It had 4 chairs on down the corridor, and they were obviously all took up because at this point there was about 20 people doing this medical exam at the same time as us. So 4 chairs is just nowhere near enough. So me and Jake actually went out into the reception area and sat in the reception area where we were first sat at the beginning. And then approximately 15 to 20 minutes later, they called us in to get our vision done, our height done, our weight done, and our blood pressure done. So I'd never had a blood pressure done before. I never weighed myself. I didn't know how high I was, my height either. So I was actually quite excited for this section, just so I could know my weight and stuff. And they put the thing around my arm to get my blood pressure done, and I was super under what it's supposed to be. So I think she said like the average is 128, 138, and I was 78. That was my blood pressure, 78, which was crazy. So obviously at this point, Jake was 130 something and I'm way under. So I asked her if everything was okay, like what was the cause of this? And it wasn't a doctor, it wasn't a nurse, it was like a young teenager. I'm guessing that she was like a student nurse, or I don't really know what she was. She didn't have a badge on or anything. She just seemed like a student. And she said that if there was a problem, the doctor in the next room would ask to see me and do it again. But it is way under. She did confirm that, but they wasn't too bothered or worried. And since then I've looked it up and it just says that I was dehydrated, which is me down to a T. I don't drink enough water at all. I then did my vision next, and basically you had to stare at the wall and put one hand on one eye and then do the same with the other and asked to read the bottom line. Now my vision is literally perfect. I don't have to wear glasses. I'm very lucky, but I have really severe dyslexia, as probably some of you know from watching my videos. So even though I can read letters from far away, my brain likes to mix them up, because that's what dyslexia is. So even though I can see a letter, sometimes I don't say what I see. So I was really nervous for this, to say that my vision was an issue. So I put one eye and then I read the bottom line and she was like, perfect, spot on. And I was like, oh my God, my brain's working today. My brain wants to do this. And then I covered the eye and I seen completely different letters as what I did on the other one. And she said, okay, can you read it back to front this time? And then I read it, different letters back to front. And she says, perfect. And she wrote on my piece of paper, 20/20 vision. So me thinking, maybe they just changed the letters, I don't know. I've got 20/20 vision, perfect. I knew I had 20/20 vision. I'm just so glad dyslexia was on my side today and didn't mess up. And Jake starts laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? When we went out the room, I was like, why was you laughing so much? He was like, you didn't get one of those numbers or letters correct. I was like, are you joking? He was like, no. He said, one way you did. He said, the other way, you got them completely wrong. And I was like, yeah, but it says I got 20/20 vision. And we were creasing in the lobby. Like, we were laughing so much because it was like they didn't pay attention and I got them all wrong. So yeah, I got 20/20 vision, guys, even though I did it all wrong. So if you've got bad vision, don't worry about it. But also in that same room, I got my height done and I got my weight done. And I was very surprised with my weight. When I got outside the room, I looked at my BMI and I'm actually oversized. Love that for myself. I'm overweight, it says, by quite a lot, which I never knew because I don't weigh myself ever. And I just thought my day's getting better and better. I've walked into urine, I've been knocked into about 100 people, my blood pressure is under what it should be. Apparently I have 20/20 vision even though I read it wrong, and now I'm overweight. Can my day get any better? Like, honestly, my day was getting better and better throughout the day. So once we had all that done, they asked us to go back and to get a seat in the waiting room, but yet again the waiting room was full, so we just waited in reception area. And this was where the wait happened. Like at this point we'd been in there for about an hour. It took about an hour to get the urine test. It took yeah, an hour to do urine tests, our blood pressures, height, weight, and then so all of that in total took an hour. And then we had to go wait in the waiting room, and then I would say we were probably in that waiting room for about 45 minutes. We were in there for a very long time, and then finally we got called to get our bloods done. Now I was so glad that this was the next stage and not like the last stage, because this is one of the worst stages, isn't it, when you have to get a needle into your arm to get blood out. And this gentleman that did our blood was so lovely. He was so friendly, and he made the whole thing like a fun, like we were already laughing from the last thing that happened, and we just continued to laugh throughout this section. And he asked to look at my veins in my arm. He told me that I had baby veins, so he couldn't find any veins that were like going to be easy to get into. So then he looked in my hands, and he found a vein in my hand to get it out. He said it does hurt more than here, but for me, I felt a little prick. It was nothing horrendous. That same week we had our COVID jab, and yeah, they were both fine for me. And he says that he fills up one little pot of blood and it gets taken away to be tested. On the wall it said what it was testing for, but it was just checking we had no diseases. So when he put the needle in, apparently my blood just like gushed out, and he managed to fill up 3 of the little bottles. I didn't actually look, I kept my head away, but he started singing a little song like, I'm draining your blood, and he just kept singing it over and over again. He was so happy of how much blood he got out of me. It was like he was gonna take it and use it for something. It was honestly so funny. And yeah, in total for mine and Jake's blood to be taken, it was 15 minutes in total. Jake hates needles, he hates them so much. He actually nearly passed out with his COVID one. So he told the gentleman that, and the gentleman was like, just think about ice cream, ice cream. And he started singing about ice cream and doing a little dance while Jake was getting his blood. And it was just, honestly, I felt like I was on a TV show and they were gonna turn around and be like, you've been framed. So in total for me and Jake to get our blood done, it took about 15 minutes, which was nice and quick. So the only things that we had left was to talk to the doctor and to get the x-ray. So at this point, we'd been there for 2 hours and we thought, great, we've only got 2 sections to go. People were walking in and out of the x-ray room within 2 minutes. So we thought we were gonna be out there in the next 10, 15 minutes. And oh my God, I wish I never ever said that, because little did I know that the man that was doing the x-rays actually went on lunch. When that man that does the chest x-ray goes on lunch, they have no one to cover him. So this is another point about booking early. If you book around lunchtime, 12:01, this might happen to you. The x-ray guy went on lunch and there was no one to cover him. So at this point, we're already over how many hours of people being late, like people walking into the clinic saying they had an appointment for 1 and it was 3 o'clock. Like, they're already behind on patients, and then they get him to go on lunch and they have no one to cover him, so we're going to be even more behind. So me and Jake are literally sat there for 45 minutes while the guy who's doing the x-ray goes on lunch. During this time there was a doctor coming out saying people's numbers. Now we didn't know at this point that we had to go see another doctor, and me and Jake were number 67 and 68, and he was coming out saying 82, 83. And I'm like, we haven't seen this doctor and he's gone past our number. So Jake was like, go ask him. So I went over, I asked him, have you called out 67 and 68 yet? And he goes, no, yeah, ages ago, you guys come on in. And I'm thinking, if I didn't go ask, we would still be there in the evening, because we wouldn't have known that we had to get called in. This doctor called us in. He said he was just checking our chest. So he had one of those things at his chest. We had to breathe in and out. He had to talk through what was going to happen. He would send us the email to say the medical has been done. We were probably in there for about 20 minutes. He was talking to us a lot about loads of stuff. He made us push on his hands like that, push on our shoulders with his hands. And yeah, we were out within 20 minutes. And then we just had one thing left to do, which was our chest x-ray. But obviously the guy went on lunch. I then stood by the door when the guy came back from lunch to make sure we were the next ones in there, because there were people going in and out that had been in there less the time than us. At this point we had been there for 4 hours and they said the maximum was 3 hours, so we'd been there for 4 hours. So I stood by the door, so when the guy came out I was like, we're next, like we're going in. We've been here for so long in this cramped environment, like so many people in there. I've walked through urine, I've been told I'm overweight, I apparently have no vision. Like my day is getting so bad at this point. So I went in there, chest x-ray room next. We had to take our bra and top off. They gave us this like overall, and this was probably the easiest part of the day, and I'm so glad it was the last part of the day. If the urine test was the last part of the day, walking in that urine, I would have complained, and that would have been enough of me. But luckily we were in and out within 5 minutes. You just stand against this x-ray board, he does a little click and he's like, all done, you can go. And I was so glad because we were just so hot. It was 30 degrees that day. There was about 50 people in this small room by the time we had gone, and it was just so unorganized. So once we had our x-rays, we left straight away. That was our medical immigration story time. So in total it took 4 hours, $300, urine, covered in urine. My blood, getting told I had baby veins, they drained lots of blood out of me, and yeah, that was my story. So it wasn't a very successful trip, but I guess we got out of it what we needed to. We had our medical done, and yeah, it's one of those things you have to do. I just really wouldn't recommend the Ajax clinic. I don't know if any of you guys have had a similar story as same as me in a different clinic. I'd love to know down below if you've had a medical exam done and it was like the same experience as me. I'd love to hear your stories. Okay, so I'm just doing a little Q&A now. If anybody had any questions or concerns about their medical on my Instagram, and a few people have written to me with a few questions, so I'll just read them. A little disclaimer before the Q&A, I'm not a specialist, I'm not a nurse, a doctor, immigration specialist, so all of these questions are just personal experiences, and if I can answer them then I will. The first question is, does any of the process hurt? No, it does not hurt one bit. The urine test you do yourself, you just pee in a pot. Your blood pressure is just one of those machines. You stand on a weigh-in scale to get your weight and your height. Probably the most painful bit for some people is probably getting the blood taken. He told me I had it in the most painful bit. I felt it go in, but apart from that, it didn't hurt at all. If you're scared of needles, don't be worried at all. You can just look away. Jake is scared of needles, and he was absolutely fine during it. Someone's put, doesn't matter if you have pre-existing health conditions such as ones that you're born with. So when you actually go and see the doctor, he asks you if you have any pre-existing health conditions. Both me and Jake, we don't, luckily we don't, but we did bring up like a few situations that may interact with it, and he said it's absolutely fine. He just puts it on your health record, and the whole point of the medical is literally just to make sure you're not bringing in diseases. Like that is literally like the only thing they're checking for. They don't care if you're unhealthy or if you've got conditions or there's anything wrong with you. Like, you are you, and they're not gonna not let you in the country because of that. So this whole medical is just making sure that your blood is clean and things like that. Someone's asked how long it takes. So on the email it says it takes 2 to 3 hours. I do believe it probably does take 2 hours if you have an early appointment, but if you're someone like us where we booked a lunchtime appointment, it took 4 hours, and I even think sometimes it could possibly take longer if you've even got a later appointment when they're trying to chase up on time. They do accept a lot of bookings through a day. I've noticed that on many clinics, so I'm not surprised when they said that they were overrunning, because they booked a lot of people in. But it does say 2 to 3 hours. If you get an early appointment, you will be 2 to 3 hours, and if it's organized, if you get an organized clinic, you'll be in and out within 2 hours. Unfortunately, mine was not organized, so it took me 4 hours. How long until you get the results? So it actually takes 2 to 3 weeks to get your blood results. But you actually get your certificate to say you've had your medical done while you are there. So when you go and see the doctor, they email it to you there and then. They don't let you leave the clinic until you have the email to say you've had it. And basically that is a valid certificate to say you've had your medical. So if you're applying for your visa and they're asking for your medical, that is what you upload. When they get the blood results back, they don't actually send it to you, they send it straight to IRCC, which is the company that deal with your visa. So you actually never see the results, and they send it straight to the right people. If there's been any problems, concerns or anything like that, they will then reach out to you and talk to you about that. But you don't actually physically see the results, you just get the certificate that day to upload onto your portal. Okay, so that brings me to the end of story time. I didn't want to make it too long and boring, but if you have got any more questions, like I said at the beginning of the video, leave it down in the comments and I'll be able to answer it for you. Me and Jake are on the process of moving from an IEC to permanent resident here in Canada. If you want to follow our journey, I would absolutely love it for you guys to come along. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. I do day of vlogs every single Monday, so if you want to see what we're up to in Canada, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. But thank you so much for listening, guys, and thank you so much for all the support over on Instagram, and I'll see you on my day off vlog on Monday. Bye.